I stood there on the front porch of what was supposed to be our future home, staring at a manila envelope taped to the door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tear it open. The afternoon sun beat down on my shoulders, making sweat drip down my back, but I felt cold all over. Inside was a single typed letter, and the first word hit me like a sledgehammer. Larissa. Nobody calls me Larissa. Everyone calls me Larry, Lar, whatever nickname they can come up with, but never my full name. When someone uses my full name, I know something's gone horribly wrong. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, feel it throbbing in my throat. I leaned against the door frame, the rough wood pressing into my shoulder, and started reading. With every single word, every sentence, I felt the ground literally opening up beneath my feet, like the earth was crumbling away and I was falling. My fiancé Marcus was writing to tell me he'd fallen in love with Jordan. Jordan, my best friend of 6 years. Jordan, who was supposed to be our best man at our wedding in 3 weeks. Jordan, who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress, who held my hand while I cried happy tears trying on veils, who'd been there for every single decision, every detail, every moment of planning this wedding. Jordan, who knew me better than anyone in the world. The letter said they'd been in love since the first day they met at that rodeo competition 3 years ago, that they'd tried to find a way to tell me but couldn't figure out how, that the only way they could handle it was to run, and by the time I was reading this, they'd already be gone, out of the city, out of my life, together. I remember standing there, reading those words over and over, my vision blurring with tears, and all I could think was, how did I not see this coming? How could the two people I trusted most in the world betray me like this? Let me back up and tell you how I got here. Because this story, it's one hell of a ride. My name's Larissa, and my name means joy and happiness, which is pretty fitting, because I've always been the kind of person who can find the light in just about anything. Even as a kid, I was that girl who'd fall down, scrape her knees bloody, and somehow end up laughing about it. My mom and grandma used to tell stories about how I'd trip and hurt myself, and instead of crying, I'd just crack up laughing at myself, at the absurdity of it. I think that's always been my superpower, being able to take pain and somehow transform it into something lighter, to find the humor even when things are falling apart. My childhood was happy, full of friends and laughter, and long summer days playing outside until the streetlights came on. I carried that energy right into my teenage years, even though things got a bit more complicated then. In high school, I was a good kid. I had to be. My mom worked as a school monitor, so if I did anything even slightly out of line, someone would run and tell her immediately. No skipping class, no bad grades, no sneaking around with boys in the hallways or behind the gym. I was the model student, the girl who always turned her homework in on time and aced her tests, even though I definitely had my moments of getting into fights with other girls. Nothing serious. Just the usual teenage drama that happens when you're stuck in a classroom all day with the same people. Stupid stuff about who said what about whom, that kind of thing. But I held my own. I never dated anyone in school, though. That came later, after graduation, when I was finally free to make my own choices without my mom's watchful eye tracking my every move. When I graduated and started actually dating, I realized pretty quickly that I had a type. Older men. I was 18 dating a 32-year-old. I know how that sounds. I really do. But I've always been mature for my age, and I liked being with men who had their lives together, who knew what they wanted, who didn't play games. Most of my relationships were with good guys, hardworking, decent men from good families. Things usually didn't work out because of the age gap. I might have been mature, but there were still differences in what we wanted, in our life stages, in our priorities. They were thinking about settling down permanently, buying houses, having kids. I was still figuring myself out, and I've always had a strong personality. Really strong. Like, intensely strong. I'm not the kind of woman who puts up with bullshit. I don't sit there quietly suffering, playing the victim, being a doormat for anyone. The second I see something's not right in a relationship, I'm out. Done. No second chances. No, let me think about it. No waiting around to see if things improve. I've always carried this with me. Nobody dies from love. Nobody. So when relationships ended, yeah, I'd cry my eyes out, lock myself in my room for days, lose 10 or 15 pounds from the heartbreak because I couldn't eat. But I'd never, ever stay in something that wasn't good for me. Some guys called me harsh, rude, difficult, Cold. Maybe I am. But that's fine with me, because thanks to that strong personality, I've never been abused. Not physically, not emotionally, not in any way. The moment I saw a red flag, I was gone before they could even think about raising their voice at me or trying to control me. There was this one time that perfectly sums up who I am, that shows exactly the kind of woman I've always been. I was getting to know this guy I was really into, thought he was gorgeous, was so excited to finally go out with him after we'd been texting for weeks. He picked me up at my house one evening, and I was wearing a cute outfit, short denim skirt, tight crop top showing my stomach. It was summer in Texas, hot as hell, probably 95 degrees even at sunset. He got out of the car to open my door for me, super sweet, super gentlemanly, and I remember thinking this was going well, that maybe this guy was different. But then he looked me up and down, his eyes scanning from my boots to my face, and his expression changed. He said, "You can wear that tonight, but I don't want you wearing something this short when you're with me again." The spell broke instantly. Every bit of attraction I had for him, every flutter of excitement in my chest, every hope I'd had for the evening, it all evaporated right there in that moment. My mom had just seen me walk out of the house in this outfit 10 minutes earlier. She'd told me I looked beautiful. And now this guy, who'd known me for all of 3 weeks, thought he had the right to tell me what I could wear. I looked at him and said, "Thanks for taking the time to come see me. But after what you just said, I'm the one who doesn't want to go out anymore. You can get back in your car and drive home. Any man who thinks he can tell me what to wear isn't worthy of my time, because I know how to dress myself and carry myself appropriately. And this outfit isn't offensive to me or to you or to anyone else. My mother saw me in it and said it was beautiful." His eyes went wide, shocked. He tried to backtrack. "No, wait. You misunderstood. I didn't mean—" "I understood perfectly," I interrupted. "And I don't want to go out with you. Get in your car and leave. I'm going back inside my house. I don't have time to waste on men like you." I turned around, walked back up my driveway, went inside my house and blocked his number before he could even get back in his car. I watched through the window as he stood there on my street for a full minute, probably trying to figure out what the hell just happened. That's who I am. When I say no, I mean no. When I say I'm done, I'm done. There's no saint in heaven or devil in hell who can make me go back on my word once I've made up my mind about something. I've never been big on the club scene. While most people my age were out partying every Friday and Saturday night, throwing back shots and dancing until 3 a.m, that wasn't really my thing. I went a few times, sure, but it never felt right to me. But there was this one night when I decided, what the hell, let me go check out this place everyone's been talking about. One of the biggest clubs in Austin. Always packed, always wild. We've got plenty of clubs and bars here, and I went to this one by myself. I'm not the type who needs someone to go with me everywhere. If my friends want to come, great. If not, I'm still going. I don't sit around waiting for people to be available. I found an outfit that worked for the venue. Short skirt, crop top, pulled my hair back into a high ponytail, put on some makeup, drove myself there, paid $100 to get in, which felt absolutely ridiculous for what was basically permission to stand in a dark, crowded room, but whatever. Inside it was exactly what you'd expect, packed wall to wall with people, so dark you could barely see 3 feet in front of you, smoke machines going constantly, so there was this weird fog everywhere, music so loud you couldn't hear yourself think even if you wanted to. There was a live band playing on stage. They were actually pretty good, doing Pagode and Sertanejo covers, and later a DJ took over. I stayed until 4 a.m, stone cold sober the whole time. I don't drink. I'm already crazy enough just on water. If I drank alcohol, forget it. I'd be absolutely out of control. I was standing there by myself, minding my own business, just watching people dance and trying to feel out the vibe of the place. And I was keeping alert, because clubs are where the most drama happens. You've got people who are there with their partners, but the second their girlfriend or boyfriend goes to the bathroom, they're flirting with someone else. Then the partner comes back, catches them, and all hell breaks loose. It happens constantly. So I was just standing there, not approaching anyone, not trying to start anything, just existing in the space. Then this huge guy walked up to me. And I mean huge. He had to be 6'8", maybe 6'9", absolutely massive. I'm 5'11", and this dude towered over me. When I see a tall guy, I get excited. Because I don't do short men. I need someone who makes me feel small, and that doesn't happen often at my height. We started talking, and he seemed decent enough at first. Told me he worked on a ranch, competed in rodeos, grew up in the country working with animals since he was a kid. We talked for over an hour, just standing there in the corner of this loud, crowded club, trying to hear each other over the music. But I started noticing something weird. He was holding the same warm beer the entire time. Like, we'd been talking for an hour and a half, and he was still nursing that same bottle. He hadn't bought a new drink, hadn't offered to buy me anything, which is pretty standard when you're talking to someone at a bar, right? Just common courtesy to offer. Then a server came by with one of those portable payment machines where you can order drinks without going to the bar. I was thirsty as hell. I'd been standing there for hours, so I ordered myself 2 bottles of water and an energy drink since I had to drive home, and it was already past 2 in the morning, and I was 40 minutes from my house. And you know what this man said to me? "Hey, could you grab me a beer while you're at it? I'm running a little short on cash right now." I stared at him, certain I'd misheard over the music. "Excuse me? Yeah, I'm kind of tight on money tonight, so if you could just add a beer to that order." Something in me snapped. Heat rushed up my neck and into my face. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Do I look like your mother? Like some old woman who pays for young guys? What exactly do you think is happening here?" His face went red. He started stammering something about how he didn't mean it like that, but I'd already grabbed my waters from the server and walked away. That night taught me something important. You don't find quality people in clubs. You just don't. You find them in places that actually matter to you, places that reflect your real interests and values. For me, that place was the rodeo circuit. Out there with the ranchers, the cowboys, the people who work with horses and cattle from sunup to sundown. That's where you find real men and women who know their worth and their work, who understand what it means to put in an honest day's labor. That's where I met Marcus. I was 23 when I first saw him. I'm 26 now, almost 27. My birthday's November 14th. We dated for 3 years, got engaged a year ago, and were supposed to get married on November 1st of this year. I met Marcus at a team roping competition about 2 hours outside Austin. One of my friends was competing that day, and he invited a group of us to come watch and cheer him on. I went to support my friend, obviously, but when we got there and I saw Marcus for the first time, something clicked inside me. He wasn't conventionally handsome. I'll be completely honest about that. He wasn't the kind of guy you'd see on a magazine cover or in a cologne commercial, but there was something about him that just pulled me in like a magnet. He was 46 years old, over 6 feet tall, built like someone who'd spent his whole life working with his hands and his body. Broad shoulders, strong arms, rough hands with calluses from years of holding reins and ropes. He had this raw, masculine energy that you don't see much anymore, this presence that commanded attention without trying. It wasn't about his looks. It was about the way he carried himself, the confidence, the quiet strength, the competence. When I watched him get on his horse, check his equipment, prepare for his run, every movement was precise, practiced, expert. This was a man who knew exactly what he was doing and didn't need to prove it to anyone. When the competition started, and I watched him rope, the way he handled his horse, the way he worked in perfect sync with his partner, the precision and strength and timing, I was completely hooked. The way his horse responded to the slightest movement of his legs, the way he threw that rope with such perfect accuracy, the way he controlled half a ton of animal with just his body and his voice, it was incredible. After the event ended, there was live music and food vendors set up, and everyone hung around for hours. It turned into this whole social thing, people sitting around eating barbecue and drinking beer and listening to accordion players and fiddle players perform. It was one of those perfect Texas afternoons that goes on forever. Marcus came over to congratulate my friend who'd competed against him. They were really respectful with each other. No bad blood about who won or lost, just genuine admiration for each other's skills. I love that about the rodeo community. There's competition, sure, but there's also deep respect. And then Marcus noticed me looking at him. He came over, introduced himself, shook my hand. His hand completely engulfed mine, rough and warm. We started talking. He told me about his life working on a ranch as a cowhand, training horses, competing in rodeos on the weekends. He'd grown up in rural Texas, been around animals his whole life, learned to ride before he learned to read. He talked about the horses he'd trained, the competitions he'd won, the ranches he'd worked on over the years. The more we talked, the more I liked him. He was respectful, attentive, asked me questions about my life. He seemed genuinely interested when I told him about my photography business and my plans to go to vet school. At the end of the afternoon, he asked for my number. I gave it to him without hesitation. He called me that same night when I got home, probably around 10 o'clock. We talked for 2 hours, about everything. Our childhoods, our families, our work, our dreams. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked. He didn't interrupt or try to dominate the conversation. A week later, he invited me out to the ranch where he worked. When I got there, he'd already saddled up this gorgeous bay mare for me. We went riding together through the property, just walking the horses slowly through the fields, and afterward we sat on the fence and talked for hours. The sun was setting, turning the sky pink and orange, and it felt like we were the only 2 people in the world. That's when we kissed for the first time, and that's when things really started between us. Marcus was everything I'd been looking for. He was the kind of man who woke up at 4:30 in the morning to feed the animals, worked hard all day without complaining, went to bed early because he was genuinely tired from physical labor. He was respectful to everyone. Me, his bosses, the other ranch hands, even the animals. He was hardworking, dedicated, reliable. The kind of guy who smelled like horses and dirt and leather and hard work, and that's exactly what I wanted. The more I saw how rough and country he was, how masculine and capable and grounded, the more I fell for him. He wasn't trying to impress me with fancy restaurants or expensive gifts. He showed his love through actions, saddling a horse for me, teaching me about animal behavior, sharing his world with me. I fell completely, utterly in love with him. Now, I need to tell you about Jordan. Jordan's been my best friend for 6 years. Or, he was my best friend. We've known each other since we were kids. Our families knew each other. We were always at the same parties and family events growing up, always in the same social circles. But we didn't get really close until later, when we were both adults. About 6 years ago, we reconnected at one of those family gatherings. We started talking, realized we had a ton in common, and just clicked. From that point on, we were inseparable. Where I went, he went. Where he went, I went. We were like sisters. And I say sisters because that's genuinely how it felt. Jordan's gay, always has been, openly since he was young. Everyone in his family knew it from the time he was a little kid. He never tried to hide it, never went through some dramatic coming out process. It was just who he was, and everyone accepted it. His parents supported him, his siblings supported him, our extended families supported him. It was never a secret or a source of shame. We were like sisters. Everything I did, he knew about. Everything he did, I knew about. We were attached at the hip, talking every day, seeing each other multiple times a week. He was the first person I called when something good happened. He was the first person I called when something bad happened. The day I first saw Marcus at that competition, I was already texting Jordan about it. Friend, I met this guy. He's not traditionally handsome, but oh my God, I'm obsessed. He's so rough and country and masculine, totally my type. And Jordan texted back, "Girl, send me a picture." I sent one, and he replied, "You're right, he's not cute, but if you like him, go for it. You deserve someone who makes you happy." That was Jordan, always supportive, always in my corner, always cheering me on. When I decided it was time to introduce Jordan to Marcus, it was at another rodeo competition about a month into our relationship. Jordan had never really been into the rodeo scene. He was more of a club guy, electronic music, urban nightlife, that whole vibe. Country life wasn't his thing at all, but he came out to meet Marcus and see what my new boyfriend was all about. He showed up in this little cowboy outfit he'd put together for the occasion. New boots, plaid shirt, jeans, a hat that still had the tag on it. He was so excited. Kept saying maybe he'd meet some hot cowboys while he was there. He's shameless like that. Completely unfiltered. And I loved it about him. He watched Marcus compete. Marcus won his division again. And afterward, the 3 of us sat down together at one of the picnic tables they'd set up near the food vendors. They introduced themselves, shook hands, made small talk. Nothing unusual or remarkable. Just normal getting-to-know-you conversation. "So what do you do?" Marcus asked Jordan. "I own a couple businesses in the city," Jordan said. "Retail, mostly." Nothing as exciting as this." He gestured around at the rodeo grounds. "It's honest work," Marcus said. "That's what matters." They seemed to get along fine. There was no awkwardness, no tension, nothing that made me think twice about the interaction. Just two people in my life meeting each other for the first time. After that day, everything seemed normal. Life went on. Marcus and I kept dating, falling deeper in love every day. Jordan and I maintained our close friendship, and occasionally the three of us would hang out together. Dinners, barbecues, going to watch Marcus compete. Looking back now, knowing what I know, I've replayed every interaction between them in my mind 1,000 times, trying to find the signs I missed, trying to pinpoint the moment things changed between them, but I can't find it. I can't see it. Maybe I was blind, or maybe they were just that good at hiding it. Eventually, after 3 years together, Marcus asked me to marry him. The proposal was perfect. Simple, romantic, just the two of us. Exactly what I'd always wanted. Marcus and I had a routine where we'd go horseback riding together on Sunday afternoons, his one day off from the ranch. We'd saddle up and ride for hours through the countryside, talking and laughing and just enjoying being together in the middle of nature. This particular Sunday seemed completely normal. I drove out to the ranch like always, parked my car, walked down to the stables where Marcus was already waiting with 2 horses saddled and ready. He gave me a kiss, hello, helped me up onto the mare I always rode, and we headed out. We were riding along this dirt road that cut through an open field, wildflowers blooming on both sides, the afternoon sun warm on our faces. Conversation was easy, flowing naturally like it always did. We talked about my upcoming exams at school, about a horse he was training, about nothing and everything. Then suddenly, Marcus stopped his horse and dismounted. I stayed on mine, confused. "What's wrong?" I called down to him. "Why'd you stop?" "Hold on a second," he said. He reached into his pocket. That's when my heart started racing, because I knew, somehow, I just knew. He pulled out a small velvet box, looked up at me with these intense brown eyes, and said, "I want to ask you something." "What?" I whispered, barely able to get the word out. He got down on one knee right there in the dirt, opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring, and said, "Larissa, will you marry me? Will you be my wife?" I'm not kidding when I say that in that moment. If God had come back and raptured me to heaven right then, I would have died happy. Tears poured down my face. I couldn't even speak, just nodded frantically and climbed down off my horse so fast I almost fell. He slid the ring onto my finger, stood up, and pulled me into his arms. We stood there in the middle of that dirt road, holding each other, while both horses just waited patiently beside us. It was simple, practical, not showy or elaborate, and it was absolutely perfect. Exactly what I'd always wanted. As soon as we got back to the ranch, I called Jordan to tell him. He answered on the first ring. "Friend," I screamed into the phone. "I'm engaged." He screamed back so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God, tell me everything. How did he do it? Let me see the ring. I'm so happy for you." We talked for an hour, me gushing about every detail while he made excited noises and asked a million questions. And then the real fun began, planning our wedding. This was going to be the best day of my life, and I wanted every single detail to be perfect. Jordan helped me with absolutely everything, and I mean everything. He was involved in every decision, every detail, every choice we made for this wedding. We went dress shopping together. I tried on probably 30 dresses before we found the right ones. Yes, plural. I was going to wear 2 dresses. One big, full ball gown style for the ceremony, all lace and tulle and romance. Then I was going to change into a more fitted, sleek dress for the reception, so I could actually move and dance and enjoy myself without carrying around 20 pounds of fabric. Jordan sat in the dressing room at every bridal shop we visited, giving his honest opinion on every single dress. That one washes you out. That one makes you look like a cupcake. That one doesn't show off your figure. That one. That's the one. He cried when I found my ceremony dress, literally sobbed into his hands saying I looked like a fairy tale. We chose the venue together, a beautiful historic ranch about an hour outside Austin, in the hill country. The property had this gorgeous old barn that had been restored. with exposed brick and wooden beams and string lights. There were fields for the horses, space for 350 guests, room for dancing and dining and celebrating. It was perfect, rustic but elegant, country but refined, and I wasn't having a traditional wedding. That just wasn't us. No string quartet or piano player for my entrance. We'd hired 3 professional horn players, real ranch hands who knew how to play cattle calls on authentic horns. They were going to play a traditional Texas cattle call as I entered on horseback. Yes, on horseback. I was going to ride a white mare down the aisle to meet Marcus at the altar. Our rings weren't going to be carried by a ring bearer in a tiny tuxedo. They were going to be brought in by a young colt, a baby horse, with the rings tied to a ribbon around his neck. We weren't doing the bouquet toss or garter toss either. Instead, we were doing a livestock auction during the reception. I'd bought a mare, a stallion, some goats, rabbits, a calf, basically built a mini farm to auction off to our guests. We'd already hired people with proper livestock trailers to transport the animals to whoever purchased them. For the aisle, I'd spent a fortune on cowhide rugs instead of a red carpet. No flower arrangements in glass vases, just wildflowers and old wooden barrels. All my bridesmaids were going to wear cowboy hats and boots with their dresses. The groomsmen were wearing suits but with western boots and bolo ties instead of regular ties. Marcus's suit was going to be this gorgeous moss green color. Not traditional, but it was going to look amazing with his coloring. The jacket, the pants, everything custom tailored. And Jordan helped pick out everything. The suit fabric, the hat, the boots, the belt buckle. Jordan had incredible taste. Better taste than me, honestly. He knew exactly what would look good, what would photograph well, what would feel special. He was the perfect person to help plan this wedding. We met with vendors together. We tasted cakes together. We chose the menu together. Barbecue, obviously. Real Texas barbecue with brisket and ribs and sausage. We picked out the bar menu, the signature cocktails we'd serve, the beer selection. Every single decision for this wedding. Jordan was there. He was my co-planner, my taste consultant, my support system. We were planning for 350 guests. That's a lot of people, which meant a lot of money. A lot of money. Marcus worked as a ranch hand making about $3,400 a month, and every single penny of his paycheck went straight to me to put toward wedding expenses. But it wasn't enough. Not for the kind of wedding we were planning. I owned 3 photography studios at the time. I've been a professional wedding photographer for 11 years now, since I was 15 years old. I started as an assistant to a photographer, and eventually built my own business. I had one small studio I used as an office for client meetings and small portrait sessions. I had a second studio that was a full bridal suite. We did dress rentals, day of wedding hair and makeup, the whole experience. And I had a third, larger studio where I did all kinds of photo shoots, maternity, newborn, family portraits, headshots, graduation photos, boudoir sessions, everything. The studios were doing well. They made good money. But I was also in veterinary school now, which took up most of my time and energy. And during the week, I worked full-time in IT at a tech company, doing systems administration. So photography had become more of a weekend thing, and I was starting to feel stretched too thin. I sat down with Marcus one evening and said, "Honey, I'm thinking about selling the studios so we have more money to invest in this wedding and make it absolutely perfect. What do you think?" He was hesitant at first. "But you love photography. Are you sure?" I explained my reasoning. I'm going to have to close or sell them eventually anyway because of school. Veterinary school is too demanding to run 3 businesses on the side. And the wedding is one day. We can't redo it. We can't go back and change it. I want this day to be exactly what we've dreamed of. We can buy a house later, get furniture later. We'll both be working. We'll figure it out. But this wedding only happens once. He thought about it for a long moment, then nodded. If you're sure, then okay. But only if you're sure. I was sure. So I sold all 3 studios. The office, the bridal suite, the main photography studio. Put every single penny from those sales into our wedding fund. It was a lot of money. More money than most people spend on weddings, I know that. But this was my one day, and I wanted it to be perfect. We paid deposits to all our vendors. We paid for the venue in full. We bought the livestock for the auction. We paid for catering, for the bar, for the band, for decorations, for rentals. Money was flowing out as fast as I could transfer it. But it was all coming together beautifully. Every detail was falling into place. We found a house to rent, a cute little place not far from the ranch where Marcus worked. And as wedding gifts started coming in from our 45 pairs of wedding attendants, we'd take them over to that house and set them up. Our groomsmen and bridesmaids were so generous. They bought us a bed, a refrigerator, a couch, a TV, kitchen appliances, everything we'd need to start our life together. So we'd go over to that empty rental house and arrange furniture, put dishes in the cabinets, hang pictures on the walls. We were building our future home piece by piece. We weren't living there yet. Marcus still lived in a small cabin on the ranch property, and I still lived in my apartment closer to the city. But we were getting everything ready so that the day after the wedding, we could move in together and start our married life. Everything was falling into place perfectly. Marcus and I had a specific routine for communication during the week because both of our schedules were so crazy. He'd call me early every morning around 5 or 5:30 while I was getting ready for work. We'd talk for 10 or 15 minutes. Good morning, how'd you sleep? What's your day look like? And then he'd go feed the animals and start his work day. I work in IT during the week, doing systems administration for a tech company. I'm at the office by 7 in the morning, work until 5, then go straight from work to night classes at the university for vet school. I don't get home until 10:30 or 11 at night, so I couldn't be on my phone all day. At work, I'm staring at computer screens troubleshooting systems. I can't be texting. And in class, I'm paying attention to lectures and labs that cost a fortune in tuition. I'm not going to waste that time on my phone. Marcus would call me again around 10:30 or 11 at night when I got home from class. We'd talk about our days, share stories, make plans for the weekend. He'd tell me he loved me. I'd tell him I loved him back. Then we'd say goodnight and go to sleep. That was our routine. Every weekday, twice a day, like clockwork. Marcus wasn't the clingy type, constantly texting, "Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with?" And I loved that about him. He was a mature, secure man who understood that we both had busy lives and trusted each other completely. Jordan and I communicated more through WhatsApp messages throughout the day, but same thing. We weren't obsessive about it. He was an entrepreneur with multiple retail businesses, so he was busy managing employees and inventory and all the logistics of running companies. We'd text when we had time, but it wasn't constant. This was our normal. One night, Marcus and I had our usual evening conversation. Everything was completely normal, completely routine. He told me about a difficult horse he was training. I told him about an exam I was stressed about. We talked about final details for the wedding, invitations that still needed to go out, final payments that were coming due. He told me he loved me, that he couldn't wait to marry me, that these next few weeks couldn't go fast enough. "I love you so much," he said. "You're everything I've ever wanted." "I love you too," I said. "I can't wait to be your wife." We said goodnight. I went to sleep feeling happy, secure, loved. The next morning, he didn't call. I didn't think much of it at first. Sometimes he overslept, or sometimes the animals needed extra attention, or sometimes something urgent came up on the ranch. It had happened before. I figured he'd call me later in the day once things calmed down, but he didn't. That night, I waited for him to call at our usual time. I took a shower, got into bed, kept my phone next to me. 10:30 came and went. 11, 11:30, midnight, nothing. I fell asleep waiting, phone clutched in my hand. When I woke up the next morning and saw I had no missed calls from him, I started to feel uneasy. This wasn't like Marcus. He was reliable, consistent, steady. I called him around 5:30, our usual time. It rang and rang and rang. No answer. Now I was worried. I went through my whole day at work distracted, checking my phone constantly, trying to call him during my lunch break. Still nothing. That night, I tried calling again. This time the phone didn't even ring. It went straight to voicemail, like it was turned off, or dead, or he'd blocked my number. Panic started setting in. The next morning, I called Jordan. His phone rang and rang until it went to voicemail too. That's when my stomach dropped. That's when real fear kicked in. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. I called in sick to work. I couldn't focus anyway, and drove straight out to the ranch where Marcus lived. It's about a 45-minute drive from my place, and I made it in 35, speeding the whole way, my heart pounding. When I pulled up to the ranch and parked by the main barn, everything looked Wrong. Usually there were signs of activity. Horses out in the pastures, gates open, wheelbarrows and tools sitting out. But everything was still and quiet and closed up. I walked down to the small cabin where Marcus lived. The door was locked. I knocked, called his name. Nothing. I cupped my hands around my eyes and looked through the window. The place looked empty. Not just empty because he wasn't home. Empty like abandoned. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get my phone out of my pocket. I tried calling him again. Straight to voicemail. I tried Jordan. Same thing. Where the hell were they? Then I remembered. We had furniture being delivered to our rental house that morning. One of our groomsmen had bought us a dining room table and was having it delivered by the store. I was supposed to be there to let the delivery people in. I got back in my car and drove to the house, my mind racing through possibilities. Maybe Marcus was there dealing with the delivery. Maybe his phone had died and he'd been trying to reach me some other way. Maybe there was a simple explanation for all of this. When I pulled up to the rental house, the delivery truck was already in the driveway. The driver was standing there looking at his phone, clearly waiting for someone to let him in so he could unload. "I'm so sorry," I called out as I got out of my car. "I got held up. Let me open up for you." "No problem," he said, walking back to his truck. I walked down the driveway to the front door, keys in my hand. The house had a gate at the street, then a sloping driveway, then the front door at the bottom. As I came down that slope, I saw it. A manila envelope, the kind you'd put a resume in, taped to our front door. My steps slowed. Something about it felt wrong, ominous. Who would leave an envelope taped to our door? The delivery guy walked past me carrying part of the table. "Where do you want this, ma'am?" Dining room, through there," I managed, unlocking the door and pushing it open for him. I stood there holding the door open, while he and his partner carried in the pieces of the table, my eyes locked on that envelope. My name wasn't on it. There was nothing written on the outside at all. After the delivery guys finished and left, I stood alone in the quiet house and stared at that envelope still taped to the door where I'd left it. My hands were shaking as I peeled it off. The tape made a soft, tearing sound. I thought maybe it was something for the landlord. She owned 2 retail spaces next to this house. Maybe someone had dropped off documents for her and accidentally left them at the wrong door. I'd just open it, see what it was, take a photo to send to her. I tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of white printer paper, folded in half. I pulled it out, unfolded it, typed text. A letter. The first word, Larissa. My vision tunneled. My ears started ringing. Nobody calls me Larissa. I leaned against the doorframe and started reading. And with every word, every sentence, every paragraph, I felt like I was falling. Like the ground was opening up beneath me and I was plummeting into darkness. The letter was from Marcus. He was writing to tell me that he'd fallen in love. With Jordan, my best friend, the person who knew me better than anyone, the person who'd helped me plan every detail of this wedding, our best man. "Larissa," it began, "I know you won't understand what's happening right now. I know this will hurt you in ways I can't even begin to express, but I need to tell you the truth." My eyes scanned down the page, my brain struggling to process the words. From the first moment I met Jordan at that rodeo 3 years ago, something changed in me. I didn't understand it at first. I thought it was just admiration, just appreciating how much he clearly cared about you. But over time, as we all spent more time together, I realized it was more than that. No. We fought it. Both of us fought it for so long. Neither of us wanted to hurt you. You're one of the best people I've ever known, and the thought of causing you pain was unbearable. But the feelings wouldn't go away. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, like someone was sitting on it. We tried to find a way to tell you. We talked about it so many times. How could we explain this? How could we make you understand? But every scenario ended with you being devastated, and we couldn't find the courage. My vision was blurring. Tears were streaming down my face, dripping off my chin onto the paper. By the time you're reading this, we're already gone. We've left the city together. I know this is cowardly. I know this is the worst possible way to handle this. But we couldn't face you. I couldn't look you in the eye and destroy you like that. I slid down the doorframe until I was sitting on the floor, my back against the wall, the letter clutched in my trembling hands. You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who loves you completely, without confusion or conflict. You deserve honesty and loyalty and dedication. And I'm so sorry I couldn't give you that. I did love you. I want you to know that. What we had was real. But what I feel for Jordan is different, stronger, undeniable. How was this real? How was this actually happening? Please don't cut off my family. They love you like a daughter. They don't know about any of this. They'll be as shocked as you are. Don't punish them for my mistakes. Jordan wanted me to tell you that he knows you're strong. He knows you'll cry in the barn with the horses. But he also knows you'll survive this. You've always been the strongest person he's ever known. And he was right. God damn him. He was right. That's exactly what I did later. Went to the barn and cried with the horses. You can do whatever you want with the wedding gifts. Sell them. Keep them. Give them away. Whatever helps you move forward. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I hope someday you can understand that this wasn't about you not being enough. You were always enough. This was about me finally being honest about who I am. I'm so sorry, Larissa. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have been the man you deserved. The letter ended with, "Please take care of yourself. Marcus." I sat there on the floor of our future home, surrounded by wedding gifts from friends and family, and I screamed. Just screamed until my throat was raw, until I had no sound left. Then I called my mom, barely able to get words out between sobs. "Mom, I need you. Something happened. I need you right now." I don't remember clearly what happened next. My mom told me later that when she got to the house, I was still sitting on the floor holding that letter, rocking back and forth, hyperventilating. She got me into her car somehow. She drove me straight to the hospital. At the ER, they had to give me something to calm down, some kind of sedative injected into my IV. I spent the night there under observation because I'd had some kind of breakdown. I don't know if it was a panic attack or what, but it was bad enough that they kept me overnight. The next morning, my mom picked me up and drove me straight to see a psychiatrist who's a family friend. I walked into his office still wearing the same clothes from the day before, my hair a mess, my eyes swollen from crying. "I'm not okay," I told him. "I'm not going to be okay. I need medication because when I leave here, I don't know what I'm capable of doing." I said it exactly like that, because I meant it. The rage and grief swirling inside me felt dangerous. He took me seriously. We talked for an hour. He prescribed me 3 different medications: anti-anxiety, antidepressant, something to help me sleep, all controlled substances that required careful monitoring. I went straight from his office to the pharmacy, bought everything, took the first doses right there in the parking lot. Then I called my therapist. Thank God I'd already been in therapy for a year, going every other week for general life stuff and stress management. I called her and said, "I need to see you today, right now if possible. Something terrible happened." She cleared her schedule and saw me that afternoon. We had an emergency session that lasted 2 hours. "I want to see you 3 times a week," she said at the end. "Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you have a crisis over the weekend, you call me. Anytime, day or night. Do you understand?" "Yes," I whispered. "I mean it. If you're having dark thoughts, if you feel like you might hurt yourself, you call me immediately." I nodded, fresh tears streaming down my face. For the next 3 days, I tried reaching Marcus and Jordan. I called, I texted, I tried every method of contact I could think of. Their phones went straight to voicemail. Messages wouldn't deliver. They'd blocked me on everything. They were really, truly gone. 4 days after I found the letter, Jordan's mom called me. "Larissa, honey." "He called me," she said, her voice shaking. "He's okay. He wanted me to tell you he's okay." "Where is he?" I demanded. "Where are they?" He wouldn't say. Just that they're safe, they're together, and they're sorry. "Sorry?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "They're sorry?" He explained everything to me. About him and Marcus, about the feelings they developed. He said he didn't know how to tell you, that things had gone too far with the wedding planning, that leaving was the only option he could see. I was silent, just breathing, trying not to scream. He said it's a love stronger than anything he's ever felt, that they don't regret leaving. "Of course they don't," I said quietly. "Why would they? They got what they wanted." A few hours later, Marcus's mom called too. Same conversation. He'd reached out, told her he was okay, tried to explain. "He said he's been hiding who he really is for years," she told me, crying. "That meeting Jordan made him realize he couldn't keep lying. But Larissa, honey, he said you're wonderful, and we should keep you in our lives." "That's generous of him," I said, my voice flat. "He said he doesn't regret what he did, that he needs to live his truth, their truth. What about my truth? What about the truth that I'd been lied to for 3 years?" After those calls, reality finally set in completely. They were gone, they were together, and they weren't sorry. I spent the next 4 days in my bedroom, unable to face the world. I lay in bed crying, sleeping, staring at the ceiling, cycling through grief and rage and disbelief. My mom brought me food that I didn't eat. Friends texted that I didn't answer. I was drowning in humiliation. Everyone would know. Everyone would find out that my fiancé left me for my best friend, for another man, 3 weeks before our wedding. 350 people were going to show up expecting a celebration, and instead they'd get, what? An explanation? An apology? I had to start canceling everything. The venue, the caterers, the band, the photographer, the videographer, the florist, the bartender, the equipment rentals. Everything. Thousands and thousands of dollars in deposits that I might not get back. Contracts with penalties for cancellation. The financial disaster on top of the emotional one. And I had to uninvite 350 guests. 350 conversations where I'd have to explain what happened, admit what he'd done, watch people's faces fill with pity. I felt paralyzed, completely overwhelmed by the enormity of what I had to undo. On the 5th day, I got out of bed. I got in my car and drove to a ranch where I do my veterinary internships. I'm in vet school studying large animal medicine, specializing in equine, horses. I do clinical rotations at several ranches and equine hospitals around the area. It was a Saturday, so this particular ranch was pretty quiet. Most of the staff had the weekend off. I knew exactly where I was going. I let myself into the barn and walked straight to a specific stall. Inside was my favorite horse on the property, a retired competition horse named Duke. He's this gorgeous chestnut gelding who doesn't compete anymore, but lives out his retirement at this ranch. His owner has told me multiple times that if I ever want to buy him, he'd sell him to me. Duke is expensive. Really expensive. If I hadn't spent all my money on the wedding, I would have bought him months ago. I opened his stall door and slipped inside, closing it quietly behind me. Duke was lying down in the clean shavings, his legs tucked under him, and he barely lifted his head when I came in. He's used to me. I've spent hours with him over the past 2 years. I sat down next to him in the shavings and just started crying. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere in my chest, somewhere primal and raw. I cried for everything I'd lost. My fiancé, my best friend, my wedding, my money, my dignity, my trust, my future as I'd imagined it. Duke turned his massive head and rested it against my shoulder. It was like he was pulling me closer, offering comfort in the only way he knew how. I've always said horses are incredible creatures. People don't realize how sensitive and intuitive they are. Despite weighing over 1,000 pounds, despite being powerful enough to kill a person with a single kick, they're gentle and empathetic. I leaned into Duke and cried for 2 solid hours. And somewhere in those 2 hours, sitting in the quiet barn with this beautiful animal, I started to pray. I'm not always the most religious person, but in that moment, I needed something bigger than myself. I needed to believe there was a reason for this pain, that there was something beyond this devastation. God, I whispered into Duke's mane, please help me. Please give me the strength to get out of bed every day. Please don't let this destroy me. Please don't let me fall so deep into depression that I can't climb out. Please don't let me give up on life. I prayed for strength, for resilience, for the ability to survive this. Please remind me, I said, that nobody dies from love. Nobody. Please help me remember that I said I would never let a man destroy me. Please help me keep that promise to myself. In that stall, with that horse, I felt something shift inside me, like God was listening, like he was giving me exactly what I needed in that moment. I'd cried everything I needed to cry about the pain Marcus and Jordan had caused me. In that barn, with Duke, I'd released it all. And when I finally stood up to leave, brushing the shavings off my jeans, I felt different, lighter, stronger, determined. I drove home, grabbed my phone, and started texting every single vendor. I need to cancel my wedding scheduled for November 1st. Here's the situation. I explained briefly. Fiancé left, wedding is off. I need to work out cancellation terms. Most of them were incredibly kind and understanding. Some of them waived cancellation fees entirely when I told them what happened. A few of them sent me their condolences and refunded my deposits. But there were still financial penalties. Contracts that I'd signed, money that I couldn't get back, thousands of dollars gone, on top of the money I'd already spent on non-refundable items. Then I started uninviting guests. I created a message and sent it to small groups at a time. I'm so sorry to inform you that Marcus and I will not be getting married. The wedding is canceled. I'll explain more in person if you want. But for now, please just know that the event is not happening. Some people responded with shock, some with sympathy. Some didn't respond at all, probably too uncomfortable to know what to say. I'm still working through the list. This week, I got a text from a guest saying, "Hey, are you getting excited about the wedding? It's coming up soon." Clearly someone who's not on social media and hasn't heard what happened, because this story has gone viral online. I posted about it on TikTok in a moment of rage and grief, and it exploded. Millions of people have seen it now, shared it, commented on it, but not everyone knows. So I'm still having those conversations, still breaking the news to people who show up with gifts, or ask about my dress or want to know what they should wear. Each conversation is a fresh humiliation, a fresh reminder of what happened. The last time I spoke with Marcus's mom was a few weeks ago. She called to check on me and to tell me she'd been watching my TikTok videos about the situation. "I'm glad you didn't put Marcus's name or his photo on social media," she said, "because if you had, I wouldn't hesitate to sue you for defamation." Something inside me snapped. "I didn't post his name or his face because I chose not to," I said, my voice cold. "Not because I'm afraid of you or any lawsuit you could bring. If I wanted to expose him, there's not a saint in heaven or devil in hell who could stop me. I have lawyers. I have people who've offered to represent me for free. I have platforms with millions of followers who would love to share his photo. Well, I just think I decided not to expose him for 2 reasons," I interrupted. "First, he and Jordan have already taken enough from me. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of being famous because of what they did to me. They don't deserve that attention." I took a breath, steadying myself. "Second, I'm worried about Marcus's mental health. As angry as I am, as much as he didn't show me this consideration, I have something called emotional responsibility. I know him, and I know he doesn't have the emotional stability to handle being publicly exposed. He's known in the rodeo community as this masculine, tough cowboy. If I put his photo out there and outed him, I don't know how he'd handle being recognized, being gossiped about, being laughed at." There was silence on the other end of the line. "I don't want to be responsible for what might happen to him if he can't handle that. God forbid he hurts himself over it. I don't want that on my conscience." I see," she said quietly. "So that's why I didn't expose him. Not because of fear, because of human decency. Something he didn't show me. We haven't spoken since. As for Marcus and Jordan, the only information I have is what their parents have told me. They're together somewhere, they're happy, and they don't regret what they did. Good for them, I guess." In the weeks following the discovery, I kept up with my psychiatrist appointments every 3 weeks. We adjusted my medications, increased doses, added new prescriptions. I maintained therapy 3 times a week, sometimes more if I was having a particularly rough day, but then something unexpected happened. Something that honestly hurt worse than the betrayal itself. My hair started falling out. I've always had really long, thick hair. It was about 33 inches long, almost down to the middle of my butt. I'm 5'11", so you can imagine how much hair that is. It was my signature feature, my pride, the thing I got complimented on constantly. Marcus and Jordan both loved it. Jordan used to say, I didn't need to worry about my outfit because my hair was my best accessory. I'd dye it jet black until it almost looked purple in the sunlight, and I'd curl it with a flat iron into these loose waves. Jordan would run his hands through it constantly, tell me it was gorgeous. Marcus loved it too. He'd wrap it around his hand 7 or 8 times. It was so long he could do that easily. He'd joke that I had hair like a prized mare, that I looked like I belonged in a shampoo commercial. My hair was everything to me, my confidence, my femininity, my identity, and it started coming out in clumps. The first time I noticed, I was in the shower washing it like normal. But when I rinsed the shampoo out and ran my hands through to detangle it, massive amounts came out in my fingers. Way more than the normal few strands you lose when washing. I looked down at the drain and saw a huge wad of hair collecting there. My stomach dropped. I kept washing, hoping it was a fluke. But the more I touched my hair, the more came out. Handfuls of it. When I got out of the shower and tried to brush it, it fell out in huge clumps. I could see patches of scalp showing through where the hair had thinned. I started hyperventilating, panicking. I called my mom, crying. We went to the doctor immediately. They ran every test imaginable. Blood work checking for anemia, thyroid issues, nutritional deficiencies, autoimmune disorders, hormonal imbalances. Everything came back normal. Then I saw a dermatologist who specialized in hair loss. She examined my scalp carefully, asked detailed questions about my stress levels and recent life events. Then she did a scalp biopsy, took a small sample of skin from my scalp to analyze. The results came back. Alopecia areata triggered by extreme emotional stress. I'd developed stress-induced alopecia. My body's response to the trauma of betrayal was to attack my own hair follicles. Is this permanent? I asked, my voice shaking. Will it grow back? It should grow back, she said carefully. But the new hair will likely be different from what you had before. Finer texture, possibly different color, more fragile. The kind of hair that grows back after chemotherapy. Very thin and delicate at first. I stared at her, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Different how? Your original hair was thick and coarse. Healthy, strong hair. The regrowth will be much finer, more prone to breakage. It may never return to its original thickness or texture. When people say the body keeps the score, they mean it literally. I didn't externalize my trauma by screaming or raging or having dramatic outbursts in public. I internalized it, pushed it down, tried to stay strong, and my body responded by manifesting physical symptoms. I'm wearing a wig right now as I tell you this story. I had to buy one in a rush, and honestly, I hate it. It's not great quality. I couldn't afford a nice one after spending all my money on a canceled wedding, and it doesn't look anything like my real hair used to look. But I can't leave the house without it. I'm too self-conscious about the bald patches. I tell people jokingly, I can walk around with everyone knowing my cheating story. The whole town knows anyway. It's gone viral online. But I can't walk around without hair. My hair was 99% of my confidence, and now it's gone. The hair loss has been harder to cope with than the betrayal itself, which sounds insane, I know, but it's true. I'm doing treatments now, taking biotin and other vitamins, doing microneedling sessions with my dermatologist every 2 weeks, where she uses a device to create tiny punctures in my scalp to stimulate hair growth, using special medicated shampoos, applying topical treatments every night. But the doctor was clear. The hair that grows back will never be what it was before. And here's the twisted irony that makes me want to scream. My hair was one of Marcus and Jordan's favorite things about me. They loved it, obsessed over it, constantly touched it and complimented it. They loved my hair so much. And now it's damaged, fragile, mostly gone, because of them, of everything they took from me. My fiancé, my best friend, my wedding, my money, my trust, my dignity. The hair loss hurts the most. It's the physical manifestation of their betrayal that I have to see every single day in the mirror. I've talked through it extensively in therapy. My therapist says it's actually the easier thing for me to focus on psychologically, because I can do something about it. I can treat it, work to regrow it, eventually get a better wig, whereas the emotional betrayal feels insurmountable, unfixable. She's probably right, but that doesn't make it easier. People have asked me, looking back now, were there signs? Red flags you missed? I've replayed every interaction between Marcus and Jordan in my mind 1,000 times. Every conversation, every glance, every moment they were in the same room together, and I still can't find the signs. Usually when someone's cheating, there are telltale indicators. They get cold and distant. They cancel plans. Your sex life suffers. They're constantly on their phone, angling it away from you, stepping out to take calls. They pick fights to create distance. They accuse you of cheating as projection. Something feels off. None of that happened with Marcus. Our relationship was solid right up until he disappeared. Our sex life was active and satisfying. If anything, he'd been more attentive than usual in the weeks before he left. He was affectionate, present, engaged in wedding planning. He showed up for everything. never canceled on me, always did what he said he'd do. He gave me absolutely no reason to suspect anything was wrong, and he never showed any signs of being attracted to men, never looked at men in that way, never made comments, never gave any indication that his sexuality was anything other than straight. He'd had girlfriends before me. He was masculine in all the traditional ways, comfortable in his body, confident in his identity as a man, naturally taking on that provider and protector role. Jordan and Marcus never exchanged meaningful glances that I noticed. They weren't awkward around each other, or overly friendly in a way that seemed forced. Their interactions seemed completely normal, completely appropriate. I've never been the type to go through someone's phone anyway. In any relationship I've ever had, I've never snooped through texts, or emails, or social media, because if I don't trust someone enough to not go through their phone, then I shouldn't be with them at all. I refuse to waste my energy being a detective in my own relationship. But even if I'd been the type to snoop, I don't think I would have found anything. They were clearly very careful. So no, I didn't see it coming. I had no idea. They blindsided me completely. And honestly, that might be the hardest part. Not just that it happened, but that I had absolutely no warning, no chance to prepare myself, to protect myself, to make my own choices about how to handle the situation. They took that from me. They took my agency, my ability to decide for myself, and I'll never forgive them for that. People also ask me, what do you think now about love? About marriage? About trusting people again? About having gay friends? Here's what I want to say, because this is important. The best part of a woman is a man, and the best part of a man is a woman. People aren't defined by their sexual orientation. They're defined by their character, their integrity, their capacity for kindness and cruelty. What Jordan did wasn't about him being gay. It was about him lacking basic human decency. It was about him being a coward, a liar, someone willing to destroy his best friend to get what he wanted. There are millions of gay men in the world who would never do what Jordan did, who understand loyalty and friendship and honesty, who would have come to me the moment they realized they had feelings for my fiancé and dealt with it like adults. Jordan's sexuality isn't the problem. His character is the problem. So no, this hasn't made me prejudiced against gay people or afraid to have gay friends. It's made me more cautious about who I trust in general, regardless of their sexuality. As for love and marriage, yes, I still believe in both. I have to, because the alternative is letting them win, letting them take even more from me than they already have. Marriage is a blessing. It came from God. And at the right time, with the right person, I'll get married. I'm sure of it. Do I still believe in love? Absolutely. There's nothing better than being with someone, building a life together, having a partner who's truly on your team. Right now, I'm healing. I'm taking medication to help with the depression and anxiety. I'm in therapy 3 times a week, working through the trauma. I'm treating my hair loss and trying to rebuild my confidence. But I'm also moving forward, meeting new people, slowly letting people back in, opening myself up to the possibility of finding someone good, a real man who values honesty and loyalty and commitment. Men are wonderful. I'm not going to stop loving men just because one of them broke my heart and ran off with my best friend. Here's what I want anyone going through something similar to know. Nobody dies from love. I know it feels like you might. I know the pain is so intense you can't imagine surviving it. But you will. You'll survive. And eventually, you'll even thrive. Sadness is only definitively sadness if you stay sad. That sounds overly simple, but it's true. Something is only truly sad if you let it keep you down forever. If you can find a way to transform your pain into something else, humor, strength, growth, wisdom, then it loses its power over you. I'm choosing to turn my devastation into determination. I can laugh at my own problems now, joke about my horns. That's what we call getting cheated on in Portuguese, taking horns like a bull. Because really, what else can I do? I can stay bitter and broken, or I can brush myself off, learn from this, and move forward. I'm choosing to move forward. I'm stronger than I thought I was. I've survived things in the past months that I didn't think I could survive. And I'm still here, still standing, still fighting for my own happiness. If you're going through a betrayal like this, please know, you're stronger than you think you are too. You're worthy of truth, of respect, of real love, and you will survive this. The person who betrayed you doesn't get to define your worth or your future. You do. Take your time to grieve. Go to therapy. Take medication if you need it. Cry in the barn with the horses if that's what helps. Do whatever you need to do to heal. But don't give up. Don't let them take your future along with your past. You're going to be okay. I promise you. Because I'm going to be okay too. And someday, maybe not today, maybe not this year, but someday, we're both going to find someone who treats us the way we deserve to be treated. Someone who would never dream of betraying us. Someone who sees our value and protects it fiercely. That person is out there. And when we're ready, we'll find them. Until then, we keep moving forward. One day at a time, one step at a time, one small victory at a time. We survive, we heal, we grow, we transform our pain into strength, and we refuse to let anyone else's choices destroy us, because we're stronger than that, we're better than that, and we deserve so much more than what we got.